What's up, crew? Welcome to Filming in Progress, the show that takes you backstage into the world of local businesses and the people who make them shine. Today, we're joined by Jade Alberts, founder of Peer Guidance, a hands-on team supporting entrepreneurs through the ups and downs of business growth. Jade's experience as a founder and his role as an investor give him a unique perspective on what it takes to succeed. Jade, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited where we're shooting. I'm excited when we met you guys. Anytime I get a chance to come on and talk about what's going on in Alberta, I'm pretty pumped.
Where are we?
We are at the Edgemont Athletic Club. Like, this is, it's funny. Like, when you said let's shoot somewhere, and that's a very rare thing, and I was like, this would be perfect place to shoot. Like, this is. We had that conversation a little bit before. This is my home, right? Like, obviously my wife and my kids, that's my home, and that, do everything for them. But this is where I want to be. Like, the people behind me, these kids that I grew up with, watching them from 12. Jonathan has us play these guys and play these girls, and they're desperate for photos because I'm on the wall. But it's this is a place that I'd like to come and get away and you said go for a run or go for a walk or listen to music. I can come in here, put my headphones on, hit up and down the wall, and this place has been like my second home for 23 years. I've met so many incredible people here, business partner, business people, and that's why I think this is such a big part of me, is why I thought it would be the perfect spot to shoot.
And it is. It's so interesting, and that's important to us. But what is the importance of having that second place, that second home to go to, maybe when you're a busy individual?
Yeah, we do a lot of work on mental health, right? Like, I've had my struggles from, whether it be with alcohol and other things, and being sexually assaulted as a kid, and figuring everything out, my whole way up my life. And, sports has always been such a big part of what I do, and it's opened up so many doors for me. So when I decided to kind of pack in hockey and play squash, it was just like, this is this new community of new friends and new people and new everything for me, right? It's a sport I never played before. But this is what gives me my me time. This allows me to get away, to forget about things, to schedule it into my, daily routine. We're talking about, like you said, that 1 o'clock, you need that, right? You know what? I know I do. I need to come here and, go for a little run and do some core or whatever I'm going to do. Or, I play 3 to 4 times a week squash. So just getting out here and being active, it just keeps your mind going. It keeps you fresh. It keeps your body going. And it's just really big part of my, mental wellness. It has been for some time.
Was that a finding that you had found throughout your journey, or was it always important from the beginning?
I kind of lost it, being an athlete, playing hockey. And then once I got into coaching and scouting, and I kind of packed it in. I played baseball and I had a scholarship offered and things like that. And I still play senior men's baseball competitively. And I lost it there for a while, and I truly think that's where I really went AWOL for a little bit. And I don't mean a little bit, I mean probably 10, 15 years little bit, that, you're diving into some things and drinking too much. And there's times in my life where I reflect and I was like, I don't know how I became this, lucky enough to become successful when I know what I was doing and things along those lines. And when I did find it back here, probably, 15-ish, 17 years ago again, and made it a really big part of my life, I've been able to kind of move forward, talk openly about things that have happened in my life in the past, and what happened to our family during COVID with my wife and things like that. So it's been a really, really big part of my life now. And I'm glad it's back, right? Yeah.
Having that outlet.
Yeah.
You mentioned you work in mental health, which we will dive into. But first of all, to be able to work in that space, to understand the importance of it, obviously you mentioned that you've gone through some things to get to that place as well. What were those things that you went through, and how did you what drove you there?
Yeah, we were sexually assaulted by our babysitter when we were young, and then I didn't realize, back in those days, you're kind of like, you tell your buddies, and it was cool, right? You laughed about it, you joked about it. But then I think about, when you reflect, right? Everything's always about reflecting back. When I look at the first time I started, drinking or having booze, it was when we were going to have a babysitter over, and I was 13. And when I tried to commit suicide at 18, it was all around alcohol. And then it just kind of spiraled for a lot of years, right? And I'm at that point where I can still have a drink or a few drinks, but it's not something I can go months and months without having a drink. But it was just one of those things that I didn't realize how it affected me. I was coaching, young kids in hockey, and I saw their problems and I had my problems. And then as I became an entrepreneur later on and after we sold our first business, I was like, okay, I'm helping all these people now and I'm doing all this, but I've never really looked after myself. I've never sat there and talked to a psychologist or talked to anybody, right? And that was really starting to bother me a little bit. And so when I started actually going for help and talking to people, COVID hit. And then my wife had a mental breakdown and ended up in the hospital. And she was on leave in the psychiatry section of Foothills for a while. And I was dealing with entrepreneurs and helping a ton of entrepreneurs. And then, dealing with our family. Our two girls were a little bit younger and trying to make everything and dealing with this all myself. And then that's when I realized that I needed help. And I had Christina, a psychologist here that really, really helped me. And I was able just to kind of call her and text her, and we were doing some business with her. And then I kind of dived into opening up myself because a few things that Cass said to me that, and a lot of it she doesn't remember, but it really caught my attention and really hit home about how I haven't dealt with a lot of things that I've dealt with, and it affected her and it bothered her. And I was like, oh my God, now my feelings are affecting my the love of my life, the mother of my children, the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Like I got to look after myself. I got to make sure I'm there for myself, and I'll probably be hopefully better to help other people as they go through their problems. And I am, there's that fallacy and that fantasy of that Facebook life, and people go out there and go, oh yeah, Jade or somebody else has got a very really good life. It's perfect. Well, you know what? It's not, right? And most of the people on Facebook aren't perfect lives, right? So I thought it was important to really start speaking about the problems I had, talking about it. Kathy and I, didn't want to make it a Kathy issue. We made it an us issue, and how we came through this together and what we did and the process that we went through to get her healthy, and she's healthy now and doing fantastic, and how we came through it as a family. So really, like, there was a lot of things that went on in my life, and it took me a long time to get there to realize, and I'm just happy that I did realize, and I wish I would have realized a heck of a lot earlier, because when you think like asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and I was embarrassed and I shouldn't have been embarrassed. There's so many people around you that will open up and help you.
Unreal. When you recognized, you said early on that you recognized that a trigger for alcohol might have been a babysitter, for example. Did you come to that conclusion on your own, or how did you come across that conclusion? What was the next step for healing?
Yeah, I think that came to a conclusion like, this happened like we're 10, 9-ish, 40 years later almost, right? Kind of thing. It was not something that I thought about a lot, that was probably the trigger, right? Like, you're growing up in the 80s and 90s and things like that. It was kind of the shake it off, right? Like you just, here it is. Doesn't matter if you had a concussion, right? Your coach is telling you to go back on the ice, right? There wasn't the science behind it as you kind of realize it. And then when you think back of where I grew up, and I love where I grew up, and I wouldn't, change a lot of things, but there was just a culture of that, a culture of alcohol, a culture of drinking, a culture of everything that went around in that, and it wasn't healthy. And I know there's probably other people that grew up and it doesn't have to be that small. It could be any small town in Saskatchewan or Alberta or BC, Manitoba, wherever, that probably has that type of a culture, and it just gets, you just don't think about it, you don't talk about it. It's just not something that, we did.
Do you think that's still the case? That it's like kind of this, it's a widespread idea that we just shake it off, to use your words?
Yeah, I think that's, speaking as a parent, right? Like, I know that Kath and I have had all these conversations with our girls when they were young, right? Whether it be boys, alcohol, drugs, things along those lines. Not sitting there saying, don't do it, it's bad. It's like, if, you want to try it, ask us, right? Like, talk to us about it, right? Like, there's there's reasons people shouldn't smoke or shouldn't vape or things along those lines, right? But I mean, I know that they're probably going to go to a high school party and there's going to be alcohol floating around there, right? And well, if you want some Twisted Teas, I'll pick you up, but I'll drive you there. We'll pick you up. We'll make sure that, having those conversations. So I think it's more open now that you can talk about this stuff. And I know, like us as parents, it's very important that we have these conversations, that our girls know that we're there for them, and we both, like, they come talk to us. So I mean, maybe our experiences or my experiences have changed that, and I'm sure maybe coaching kids and watching them struggle when I was 20, 21, 22, and watching them drink, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and I was probably hungover at that kitchen table as they're telling their parents that maybe they want to quit hockey, or they're smoking weed or drinking too much, or they need help, right? So I saw a lot of that as a coach really formed my what made me a parent. Obviously, so did my parents and things like that. But I had access to some things that a lot of people didn't see when they were younger.
That openness that you're talking about, that openness to talk about things, share things, just be open with another individual. What is the importance of that, and how do we continue to foster that and ensure that we're moving in the right direction rather than staying quiet about things and dealing with them on our own?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'll speak in general, right? Like, I've had, 3 conversations with entrepreneurs, because we put ourselves, part of peer guidance is that purpose before profit mentality, is to make sure that capital doesn't get in the way of what you need. You might just need a door opened. You might just need, an introduction, or just some friendly advice, or somebody that you want to open up to because you don't want to tell your partner, and you don't want to add the extra worries. And I get that, when you're your business, you don't want to tell your wife that maybe you're struggling, or you might not get a paycheck again, or you're not even getting one, or you can't pay. There's lots of things, and you get it. But I really do believe that when this coming out of COVID, it was really there, right? People were talking about it, and it's kind of faded away into the background again. And this is just my opinion, right? And a lot of people were coming out, and when I'd have these random people would just say, I thought I'd be just having a business talk, and then we have suicide, I was like, holy smokes. I'm smart enough to know that it's time to listen, right? And you listen, and then I went and got a little bit more help and advice to say, how should I deal with this? And then the next one that happened, I sat in the car with the person and made the call to the Canadian Suicide Hotline, which I have on my phone now. So what's out there. We had an entrepreneur take his life 8 months ago, unexpectedly. We just have to make it's okay not to be okay. And I'm stealing Ty Smith's line here from the Humboldt Broncos crash, right? I love listening to his stuff. I wear his stuff all the time, right? And I think we just have to let people know, right? It's all right to come forward. It's all right not to be perfect. It's all right to let people know that you're struggling and having these, and no one's going to judge you. Like, nobody in our community is going to judge you. And I haven't seen anybody yet that would say something that. And it doesn't matter if it's a VC fund. It doesn't matter if it's a mentor somewhere. Nobody. They want you to come forward. They want you to ask for help. So I see more and more and more of it. It just has to get to 100%, right?
What can the average person do? I think there's probably nobody that disagrees with you getting it to that 100%, right? What can the average person do to get it there, to push it in the right direction? Like, what other organizations like Peer Guidance exist? Is there a need for more like that? How can people support?
Yeah, we have a very collaborative entrepreneurial community here, right? From top down, from the government support all the way down to companies like Peer Guidance that are there, and that's what I love about it. And I think some of the narrative has to change a little bit on. I'm going to speak from an entrepreneurial point of view here. We fantasize and glorify entrepreneurship, and fuck, it's hard. We know it's hard, right? It's not glorifying. It's not easy. You can't take time off and do. Everyone thinks that I'm going to be able to work this and have all this free time. Well, no, you're not, right? Maybe you'll get to that point one day, but that's a long ways away, right? So I think talking more about the reality of entrepreneurship, talking about how hard it is, not telling people to go, start a business, have an idea, build a deck, and then go sell it. Like, no, that's not how it works, right? As an investor, I don't want to invest in an idea. I want to invest in a really good business. You have to go out there, you have to sell, you have to work hard, you have to network. You're asking all different types of people. So I really do believe that, being honest about how hard entrepreneurship is, not glorifying it, and us talking more along those lines as a community. In the last 9 years, I've seen that narrative switching a little bit. Like, I would say if there was maybe me talking about it 9 years ago, we probably have maybe 25% of the community talking about it now. But there's also has to be hard conversations. If during COVID, like I was telling people, do not get that loan, $40,000 loan. It's a loan, you're gonna get 10 grand waived. They're gonna have 30 grand. Like, don't get it. Like, it's just gonna build yourself into more debt. Don't take a second mortgage out on your house. Maybe close your business. It's time. It's not working. Like, we have to have more of those hard and open and honest conversations with entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, I'm always curious as to this pendulum, right, that's always swinging, and sometimes we're super soft on people, sometimes it's the hustle mentality. Where do you think we are on that pendulum, and are we moving in the right direction or potentially the wrong?
I think we're moving in the right direction, slow. It's kind of like anything, change doesn't happen fast, right? On that pendulum, the analogy actually I use is a child, right? I think we're just getting up and starting to walk now. Right, like we're a long ways from being running a 100-meter sprint, but again we've been born. We're kind of just slowly moving that way, and that's kind of us as an ecosystem as well, right? We kind of came out of nowhere, right? And then all of a sudden we're getting all this money and all these great entrepreneurs, and we have so many great entrepreneurs here. They're getting funds. 90-ish% of the companies that are funded here, is coming from outside Alberta. So even our investment community is slowly growing. You're seeing more and more funds that are willing to invest in great Alberta companies and people. So we're very early, and one of the things that I love is we're Alberta. We're our own thing. We're not the Valley. We're not Toronto or Vancouver. We're us. Like, people complain about, oh man, it takes too long to get an investment. It's like, I don't think, maybe it doesn't take long enough. I mean, if I or you wanted to invest my our hard-earned money, I want to make sure it's a good investment, and I'll take my time in making that decision, right? And I truly believe that what we're creating is something that's going to be very, very powerful. And as I speak across North America, and I have for some time, we're the envy of a lot of communities. Like, Alberta innovates. Like, we have government money that invests into funds. We have Alberta AEC. We have OSIF that invests into funds in our community. And I'm sure some people in Calgary don't even know that they do that, like with city money. But this is creating job. It's creating a community, and people die for that. That's why you're seeing so many people move here and want to be part of what we're doing.
As you mentioned, it's no secret that entrepreneurs struggle with mental health and loneliness specifically. I'm curious as to, we hear stories about it all the time, but as the average person, what can the average person do to, help that person through? That's often the age-old question of, I didn't even know this person was struggling.
Yeah. Listen, that's all you have. If somebody reaches out to you, they're not reaching out to you to say, oh yeah, that's your idea. Well, here's what happened to me. This is, it's nothing to do about you. It's just sit there. Maybe you're a shoulder to cry on. Maybe you hand them a Kleenex. You may, whatever it may be, you just listen to that person. And that's what they're looking for. Just someone that they can trust and open up to and say, hey, you know what? I got somebody you can talk to, right? You've got somebody that, I'm not a psychologist or a social worker or things. If it gets to that extent, I can make recommendations and places for you to go. But a lot of time it's just sitting there and listening and not offering any advice, right? Like, not saying, okay, this is what I would do, right? It's no, it's just like, hey, I'm glad, thanking them for opening up and making sure that they feel good about themselves opening up, so they take that next step. Because the hardest step is asking for help. It's that first phone call. It's that first meeting to say, I'm struggling. I need help. Like, again, the one that took his own life, we knew him. All of us knew him, right? He's been to Founders Coffee. Didn't do it. Why? I don't know. Like, it's something I think about all the time. So it's that aspect of just being there and listening and then, you know, maybe guiding them in the right way to somebody that can help them if it's serious.
Who is the perfect fit for Pure Guidance and the services that you offer?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're kind of like, I always say, we're like the world's worst business. I know that sounds weird, but, you know, Pure Guidance, you know, wasn't created to be, you know, $1 million, $2 million, expand all over the place, right? Like, it was meant to make sure that companies get that help without having to worry about capital, right? I didn't want to be a consultant and say, okay, you're charging them 10 grand, I'll do it better for 5. That's greasy, right? So I was like, that's where the purpose before profit, you know, mantra came in, was we'll sit down with anybody and have that coffee and make those introductions. And then as an organization, you know, now there's 4 of us, myself, Mo, Pete, and Kyle, and we all have different backgrounds. Between the 4 of us, we've exited 9 companies, run multiple businesses. I met Mo here. We've become very good friends. We met in the change room like long time ago, right? And now we're business partners, right? I met Pete through Rainforest, Alberta. Right, again, another place that's about giving back and helping community, and Kyle through Startup TNT. And we all have that belief in giving back and you know, not sitting there that you have to charge us X amount of dollars for somebody to do, because startups have no money, scale-ups have no money. And because we're so industry agnostic, you know, we can work with companies like Karma Camper Vans, who I met here, like David Wald, right? And we've helped them expand across Canada, and we'll be helping them move farther along. Whether we've done B2B tech, we've done other brick and mortar type companies. So we can do a lot of different things because our experience is just not tech. A lot of us, we're all invested in tech, and we do that as angel investors, but we can help a lot of different companies, which makes us unique. And the one thing we'll say, I have a lot of healthy conversations with people, is that I truly believe if you've never been an entrepreneur, you should not be helping an entrepreneur. You don't know what it's like to lay in the grass and cry, or punch a wall, or just go downstairs and just put your head in a pillow and just like scream because you don't know what the next day is going to hold, a month, never mind a year. Like, it's challenging that. And again, it all relates back to like, oh, I'm not going to tell my wife because I don't want to scare the shit out of her. Right? I don't want her to worry about what's going on in my business world, whereas, you know, she's got her stuff and things like that, right? Whereas hindsight, maybe I should have, right? I should have been more open. I don't know, right? But I mean, that's kind of the Pure Guidance. We've lived in your shoes. We've walked in your shoes. We understand what you're going through. And I think that's what makes us, you know, has really made us, and in my opinion, really changed the way consultants work, especially in our market. Like, it's not about getting that X amount of dollars a month. Like, we'll work with clients with what they can afford. Like, we like you, we believe in you, we believe you're an entrepreneur, you want to better yourself, you want to better your company. And our goal is for you not to be our client. We'll get in there 3 to 4 months. The money that you're paying us quickly goes back into your company, and then we're just kind of move over to the side as advisors and have like a monthly meeting so everything goes, and we're always going to be there for you. So it's a different company. It's built different. It's meant to be different, and you know, I'm extremely proud of what we've done.
Yeah. Is it a resource that you wish that you had when you were, you know, going through similar issues, maybe early stages before you'd experienced it yourself?
Yeah, I've been asked that before, and I think the answer changes every single time. You know, it was heads down go. Like, I did no accelerators. We were cash flow positive. We were, you know, within 18 months we were making money, and that's kind of how we grew, right? We grew it based on our cash flow. We grew it as quick as we possibly can, and you know, we hedged some money and things along those lines. You know, when the dollar started to drop a little bit, and made some really good choices, but you know, it was every penny counts. If I could find a, you know, 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on saving on the shipping hot dogs somewhere, that was a big deal, right? And everything that we did, like, so yeah, I mean, I had really good business partners. They were very successful business people, and it was nice having them around, especially the father, Cam. like very, like I love it, old school, right? Like believed in his gut, and I still believe in my gut, right? I was like, I think of his story about, making that one decision to go and opening up his second location for a hotel. And it's like, he goes, everyone was telling me no, but I knew it. I knew it was the right decision, and I did it. And it, created an empire. And little things like that where those things have always stuck with me, right? Even when we have an entrepreneur and at the end of the meeting, we've had a really good discussion, because the four of us will not rehearse what we're going to tell, when we're having a meeting. It's like 5 founders sitting in front of us and having an open conversation about it. But at the end, we always say it's your decision. It's your company. If it fails, you have to look in the mirror, believe you made the right decision, not sit there and say, Jade told me to do this and I failed. You can't have that. We'll put a lot of ideas in front of you. You go, if they succeed, great. If they fail, we move to the next one, right? So, that was a lot of live and learn. We failed a lot with Nathan's. Like, a lot of things didn't work, but do I regret trying any of them? Absolutely not, right? Some of them were hugely successful, especially some of our marketing stuff was off the charts successful that put us on the map. So if you didn't make a phone call or if you didn't try something, and you just never know, right?
Yeah. Ability to take risks and willingness to learn from mistakes. We'll get into wins as well, but what are some of the mistakes that you made over your career and before your exits that were potentially catastrophic or hit you hard?
Yeah, some of the mistakes that we made were they weren't so much financial like losses, but time. Even when we said, okay, we're going to start this business, we're bringing the hot dogs up here, we changed our entire business plan in 39 days. It was all wrong. Like what we thought, and we did our research, and we did a lot of things. We traveled, we found the hot dog cultures, things like that. But we had it wrong, like right almost out of the get-go. And we pivoted very, very quickly to make that, change that to hiring brokers and regionally and not a main one, which really helped us. So if we would have maybe stayed another 2 months, we who knows what would have happened, right? Like, we might have been able not to move that product. That would have been $110,000, mistake that would have set us back big time right out of the get-go. So now, once we did that and had everything set up, and we made some great choices with brokers, and then it was just not doing our homework again, and understanding how some of the the food industry really plays in this country. It's really controlled by 2 people, and we thought, no problem, we'll get in there, it'll be easy. And well, no, again, it wasn't. And it took time and time and time. And then because we couldn't get into any of their trade shows, we're blocked because we didn't have the money to pay to play type things that you needed to. Then again, that was another little, and we found somebody to buy a big chunk of dogs and things like that were good. But then we just had to revamp our plan. Okay, let's hit all these independent shows to go out there to get to people, and maybe they'll see us. So a lot of the little mistakes and hiring the wrong shipping company, and not like I went to, this one kills me. It was, it costs a lot of money to ship frozen product. Because it's, you can have a 52-footer rolling around there, right? But when it's frozen, it costs extra. And I think 2 years we're, this company using that company, using this company. And then one day I was like, I got all these Cisco trucks rolling around. Like, they must pick up product. And, it was costing us about $1-ish a box to ship frozen. I phoned Cisco and I sit there and they're like, hey, you guys pick up product? Like, oh, yeah. It's pretty expensive though, right? I was like, oh, okay. What's expensive? And they're like, well, it's going to cost you like, 30 cents a pound. And I was paying $1 a pound. And I was like, oh my God, that's expensive, right? Holy, can you do any better? Like, oh, no, that's our flat rate for everybody. I was like, okay, well, if that's a flat rate, like, how do we switch? I was like, I'm saving 70 cents. Like, that's unheard of, right? But now I'm thinking about, I had 2 years I could have had of savings, right? Because I just didn't know, right? And you get back to that mentoring thing, like maybe somebody would have been able to tell me to do that. It could have saved us a lot of money over time. So yeah, God, it could, there's lots of different mistakes, right? But a lot of them, that one maybe didn't really hurt us. We had the budget, but moving forward, it sure helped us, right?
Well, I think the principle that I'm listening from there is that I'm hearing there is identifying opportunities, right? Like you identified the opportunity to build the business in the first place, and then you identified an opportunity to cost save here and cost save here. Was that ability to identify opportunities something that you've always had since a kid, or as an entrepreneur, you learn to identify more?
Again, I've been around some really good people. Like I've been blessed. Like when I dropped out of university, and I owe a lot to sports. Like, I mean, I dropped out of university and I was playing senior ball, and I got a job in a video business, and I was selling movies to all the video stores across Saskatchewan, like in the VHS days, right? Well, that introduction came from a guy I played baseball with. I met Mike. Mike's a good buddy of mine. We still curl together to this day every Tuesday. And that opportunity made me find what I'm good at. I was good at sales. And I was really good at it, and I loved it. And I stayed with Video One, and then through another hockey connection, I got on with Dairy Supplies Limited. So we sold slush machines, like and shake machines, and if you go into co-ops and see their delis and those things that cook the rotisseries that cook the chickens and things like that. But then I met like Rob Ryder, who today is still my mentor. He's a really good friend. Like he's a little bit of everything. He's always included me. He's always helped me. He's always been there for me. But one of the things that I learned from him and Mike Wilson was you're in a family business, kind of. It's a smaller, it was a $25, $30 million business. And I was in Saskatchewan at the time, and I was like, okay, they hired me, and they're like, all right, we don't have any clients here. Go. Like, I literally had to grab phone books. Like, it was before internet, right? Like, go get Estevan, write down all the convenience stores, people I'm going to start on, put it on a sheet and grab a map, and whoop, away I went, right? And they're like, we know it's going to take 3-6 months, and maybe longer to get a sale, but pound the pavement, get out there, go it here, here you go. But they also said that here's the cost of our product, here's what we want you to sell it for. This is where you'll get full commission. You sell it here, you'll get less commission. As we go down the thing, it's like they said, I do not want you to say, I want to phone my manager or my boss. I want you to make that decision now. And if a customer's in front of you and says, yes, I want to do it, can I get a better price? You say, I can give you this, make it happen, get the deal done. And that stuck with me a lot, right? Like I saw so many people saying, oh, let me call my manager. And that always bothered me. And that really turned my new thinking when it came to Nathan's and how we grew that brand. But it was so intriguing having all these great people around you to really learn from and successful. And it introduced me to YPO and EO and great groups like that even met more great people that were there, and even to this day we're friends with, and brought me into other cohorts of business leaders and things like that have helped. So yeah, I mean, it's you just never know how something is going to turn out. You really don't.
Yeah. It sounds like everything you've done is surrounding or surrounded by probably both people. Yep. Like what you've talked about mentors, you've talked about learnings that you've had along the way from different people. What is the importance of, you talked about even listening earlier, but what, like, to those who are maybe head down and in it and aren't listening, aren't kind of connecting with people, aren't having coffees, aren't what would you say to that person?
Oh, you're moving backwards. Right, like you have to get out there. I mean, networking is one of the most important parts of a business and growth of a business that people forget about. I mean, I started Founders Coffee 7 years ago. Like, I call it my poor man's EO, right? Like, you need a place to meet like-minded people, and you never know how the collaborations are going to happen. But if you're not out there, you're not meeting potentially you or whoever else it is that might be able to open a door, might be able to help you, might be able to make an introduction. Who knows who you're missing, and that is so important. And a lot of people take the networking and say, okay, I'll go next week. Well, now it's 6 months and you haven't done it, right? And you don't have to do it. Like, I don't have to do it as much as I used to. Like, I used to be everywhere. I'm definitely not as out there as much as our girls have gotten older and all the sports that they play, but you have to be out there. telling your story, listening to other people's story. When we work with companies and founders and we're talking about where they want to be in their company in 5 years, like, do you want to be the CEO? Do you want to be in the dirt every day, banging heads? Or, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be the spokesperson. I want to be out there. I want to get off the stage. And I was like, perfect, that's what I want. So now we know that we got to find a CEO for you in a few years when we can afford it and as we grow, right? But over the next 2 years, I want you to have that in the back of your mind of saying, we're looking for a CEO. So when I meet somebody, oh, this could be a good candidate. Oh, this could be a good candidate type thing, right? So it's important, even in the growth of your plan, that you don't even know where you're going to be yet, and you never know when you're going to meet somebody that you can say, this is a person that's going to make a difference in my business.
Couldn't agree more. I think there's a bit of a, I don't know what the right word is, but when an expectation, maybe when you go to a networking event, let's say, or like a trade show or a networking event or whatever the case may be, and you just don't know how to go about, conversing with that person or asking the right question or, following up. So do you have a structure that you might recommend people kind of go forward with to ensure that they're actually intaking or getting value out of these networking events? Or networking in general, I suppose?
Yeah, I never have a plan, so to say. Like, I have a plan for everything usually, but networking, I'm more of a winging it. And that's what I tell people to do. Like, there's a lot of introverts out there, and they're worried, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do it, I want to talk. And what I tell them to do is, like, there'll be a group of, if the three of us are standing around and just bullshitting and having a conversation, sidle in. Right? Because, we'll probably have our conversation and then we're like, hey, good to meet you. I'm Jade, blah, 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 right? It's an easy way. And you might even, they'll probably change the conversation and saying, oh, what do you do? And it's like, oh, I'm just da-da-da. Or you might even be able to jump into the conversation that they're having. And it's just a very casual way of breaking in. So I always say there's safety in numbers when I tell people that are really introverted or we've talked to a lot of new immigrant women that are creating businesses, and then actually we've taken them out to networking events with us and brought them and made introductions and things but then said, okay, now you guys go talk, go find something. So if you see a group of 3, 4, or 5 and you can just sidle in there and just kind of listen for 2 or 3 minutes, and I do it. Like if I'm going to an event, I was in Vancouver and I got invited to this big event. I knew a few people that were there, but I sidled into a couple conversations. Before you know it, I'm talking to a few ministers. And then I'm telling them about what we're doing in Alberta and things like that. And they're like, oh my God, I'd like to set up a call with you. And I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good, right? But again, if you're not out there, like who are you not meeting? And that hurts your business, in my opinion, if you're not looking for those people that can help you.
I love the idea that if you're not moving, if you're stationary, you're actually moving backwards. Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely.
You are involved in blockchain here in Calgary and Canada. What is the blockchain? For those who don't know, high level, what is the blockchain and what are the business implications?
Yeah, when it comes to like being the VP of the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, we're not dived into the tech side of it, right? And we a lot of us know a lot of the good things that it could do for our health records and lots of different things, supply chain, everything. But we're really focused on the actual, we're not lobbyists, but making sure we're educating and moving the industry forward. Because as basically the voice in Canada, as a nonprofit with, Kalea, being the founder and our leader, we've been able to do a lot of great things and when I say moving the industry forward, it's moving it together. Like, so when we sit down with regulators or politicians or premiers or whoever it is, we have all the right people at the table to answer those questions, right? We have the Oslers, the BLGs, the Miller Thompsons, the KPMGs, the EYs, the Deloittes, the exchanges, the miners, like we have everybody there. So, and the one thing that I love about Canadian politics is we're not American. We're not looking for that freaking YouTube moment that we can just blast out there and make us, like we're being pieces of shit, right? Our politicians really want to look educated. They don't want to look dumb, right? So they want to be able to go out there and saying, yes, we're looking at doing this and we're talking with Osler, KPMG, Deloitte of the world, working with the industry leaders to make this what we can in Canada. And we are by far the industry leaders in Canada. And regulations, people will say, well, it slows things down, it slows down growth, it slows down this. But I mean, do you want to you go to Bermuda for a reason if you want to set up an exchange, because there are no rules, right? And look what happens. Do you want to be in Canada where I have all my crypto on Canadian exchanges? Like, I hold none of it in cold storage. And I'm not worried about it because we're Ciro approved, the old IROC. We're industry leaders on that side as well. Like, exchanges are approved by, falling under the same regulations as banks. So that makes you and everybody else feel safe about having their money on these exchanges, right? And even on the the banking side, it's hard to get a bank account of crypto because people aren't educated. Well, we have an access to banking committee. We're educating the banks. We're educating insurance companies. We're educating all these people, and they're all at the table making sure that everybody is safe. And when we do have the world's first ETF IPO in Canada, the first Bitcoin company, Bitcoin ATM company in Canada, here in Alberta, Atom and Bitcoin Well in Edmonton, that we're doing things right. And usually when you do things right, it's slow. Right? If you want to be in Dubai and you want to, if MBS wants to say something, it's done. But that's not going to happen here. And I think that's a good thing, in my opinion, to make sure that we are a safe place to do business. We have companies coming here to do business. Alberta is one of the best places to do business in that world and in that industry. Like, we are a leader in this province, in this country.
Definitely. What do you think the potential business implications are for those who have maybe either thought about how they can use blockchain technology in their business, or maybe those who, there's plenty of people out there who have unfortunately been burned for maybe based on lack of regulation as a potential reason for that. What kind of things are you exploring, or would you say to people who are exploring using that technology?
Yeah, most people have been burned because of, scams. Right? I mean, the Nigerian prince has been around forever, right? Now he's just trying to get crypto out of you, and it's no different than anything, right? So you hope that, I educate. My mom's obviously been in finance her whole life, so I don't have to worry about it. But, educating your parents, especially about scams, and it doesn't matter if it's crypto or whatever it is, just making sure they understand, right? But I see a lot of really good things that can be done, but a lot of good things involves education, because what's going to happen is it's going to be government regulated, right? So, but people are scared. It's like, oh my God, do I want more government in my life? Well, it's not actually more government in your life. It's less government, right? If you're going to have your health records on the block and you're going to have it somewhere, well, now it's mine. Like, no one else can access it but me, and I can give access to my doctor. And when you're telling people, especially older people, I always go back to the original Roadhouse. I don't know if you watched it with Patrick Swayze, but when he walks into the OR room and he's got his file and he hands it to her and he goes, "Oh, this is pretty good." And she goes, "Oh, that's good stitches." And she goes, "Oh, this is my file, right?" Well, that's literally blockchain, right? It's your file, your everything. You're taking it with you when you're going somewhere. But change needs education, and change is scary to people, right? So, again, when Premier Smith and she has a lot of great ideas, but I don't think these ideas are probably going to go anywhere because people don't trust government, and it's probably at an all-time high, especially when you see what's going on in the States, and it's even turning it here, right? So I don't know if that's going to be something that's gonna do, if it's going to be able to move your healthcare or move some of your things along those lines. But I always talk about, and you can look at Ukraine, you can look at any of the places now, whether it be in the Gaza Strip, or if these people had their crypto and in their wallets, they had their ID, their identification, and they have to run for their lives. It was something that you and I probably never have to worry about. But if I have to leave my home and take my family, and now I've got nothing, at least I would have something to prove who I am, where I am, what I got. I've got some money, I can turn it into fiat currency, and I can probably live. Rather than, I'm not going to have access to a bank. My bank's gone. I got my documents, who knows where they are, right? So I think there's so many good things that the blockchain can do for humanity. I just think it's going to take us a long time to get there.
Yeah. yeah. Lack of education and potentially lack of regulation is going to help. Well, it will help, sorry, once those are implemented.
Yeah. And, and to educate the masses, that just takes a lot of money, right? And that's not going to be, you and me and industry doing. That's got to be government, right? And then if someone says that we're going to spend all this money to educate you on this, and people will probably get pissed off again. You're wasting money. Right? It's a no-win situation, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. You have made several, as we've alluded to and talked about a little bit here, several successful exits. And I think entrepreneurs, often dream about what that might look like, but often don't actually know what it would look like in the future and how to go about that and how to build a company for an exit and that sort of thing. So walk me through your experience with your exits, and what an entrepreneur might do to set up successfully for that.
Yeah, I mean, one of them was my company, and the other ones I helped the founders and do it, and came on board with them to lead them and benefited from it, right? But I think that question that you just asked is, no one knows how they're going to exit their company, right? Like, you don't. The one thing that I always, to kind of maybe just bring it back to the beginning a little bit, instead of thinking that you're going to be a unicorn, build something that's going to be good for you, something that you're proud of, something that can benefit you and your family. If you build a $2 million business, let's just say you're an Alberta business, that's life-changing money for most people. If your goal in life is to kind of have a cottage and a boat, you can do it with that. Like, you're going to have enough money for yourself to do the things that you want to do in life. And when we talk about that entrepreneur dream, well, that's probably where you're at. I have staff, I've hired people. I probably have some more free time to do the things that I want to do as an entrepreneur. And then if you're thinking about, I'm going to build this to be a 10 billion, 20, 100, well, that could just not be right. And you've got the wrong mindset rather than focusing on the road in front of you of building something that's good. And when it comes to exit, like, we exited it was done in a month. Like, it was like, I didn't even know the word exit existed when I started coming in here. I was like, yeah, we sold our company. Everyone's like, oh my God, you exited a business? Yeah, we sold it. Like, it was just something that happened. And I was like, yeah, take a few months off, maybe 9 months off, and find something else to do because I'll be bored, right? But building to exit something, I think, is a totally wrong strategy. And I hate it when investors say, oh, what's your exit plan? Like, I'm trying to make my first sale, and you want to think about how I'm going to sell my company? Like, come on, smarten up, right? So, and even companies that I helped exit, like one of them, again, met here, Healthy Heart Sleep Company, and worked with George. When we first had our conversation, it was, do you want to sell your company? You got a really successful single office business. He goes, I want to expand it, grow it, and sell it. All right. Well, that means you're going to work a lot harder for the next probably 2-3 years, and then, build it up to 2, 3, 4, 5 locations and then sell it, right? But, and that's kind of what happened. The other one was a single off that kind of wanted to grow a little bit and grew, and then another one, same type of idea. But again, it's building something that you can be proud of. And then if you want to sell it or grow it, then there'll be time. And if you have a $1.5 million business and you want to grow now, well, the banks will be there for you because you've been a really good client for a long time. So they'll probably lend you money to open up your second location, which is less than trying to go out and find, investors and things like that. So if you plan right and build it right, I think an exit will happen eventually if that's your goal, right? And even on Telling It Like It Is this week is going to be Village Wealth that will help you do that, right? So thinking about exiting your company is the wrong way to do it. But when you do get to that point, one of the most important things that I told George, or George, reminds me, is that his company, when he sold it, they wanted him to stay on for 5 years, and they were going to tie his second half of his buyout to a 5-year program, right? And I was like, oh, forget it. You're going to hate this company after a year. It's not you. It's not yours. Maybe a name change. You're now a number. You're out, right? There'll be a little leeway, but I said, ask for a 1 year, and they can still pay it out over 5, but you're only going to be here for 1, because if you stay here for 5 and you want to leave after 2, they're just going to say, okay, well, we'll maybe give you 10% of what this buyout was, and you're going to lose a lot of money because you're going to hate it here. And he ended up taking a 2-year type buyout, and he forged through his 2 years to get everything that he deserved or was required to do to fill his contractual obligations. But at about 14 months, and we're still friends, he's like, holy Jade, I'm so happy that you had that experience of knowing what was probably going to happen, because I wouldn't even blinked an eye. I would have just signed it and we're good, right? So again, the knowledge and the things that you can share with people about an exit is even important when somebody might not think that, right?
Yeah, I love that. And I think it goes alongside what we were talking about earlier, which is being honest about the realities, right? Because a lot of people dream about this big exit before they've even come up with a concept or a purpose for their business in the first place.
Oh yeah, and after Nathan's, I struggled. I struggled because it was our baby, right? Getting a Twitter war with the Trailer Park Boys, some of the fun things that we did, and help, and then, but it was all ideas that we came up with and we executed, and good and bad, but it was fun, and it was yours, and you grew it to almost a $9 million business, right? You're like, this is awesome, and then all of a sudden in a month it's gone, and Kath would say why do you care? I was like, because it was it's mine, I've never been part of something like that, right? You're always working for a company. There's something that wasn't yours, and it took me 6 to 8 months to get over that. It was hard. Now I don't really think about it, but it also didn't help being, the number I had was the only number for Nathan's in Canada. So there was a lot of phone calls coming in. So it was hard to pull away, right?
Yeah.
But it was hard mentally for me to get over what they were doing, and then Kathy, it's not your company. You don't care. Whatever, man. I was like, no, I do care. I'm passionate about it, right? You're in the trenches. You've eat, leave, breathe, cried over it, right?
It's people describe your business as a baby, and I don't think that's incorrect, right? You've raised this from the ground up, well, as a founder, assuming. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, dealing with that. What did you feel specifically when after you had sold and, you see somebody else making the decisions and taking things over and maybe doing things that you would have done differently? How does that make you feel?
It's a driving force behind Pure Guidance. Because when I started diving into the community here, and I think one of the first events I went to was, I think the Chamber of Commerce Small Business Expo or something, and I ran into Kevin Dahl. And we kind of knew each other from Saskatoon a little bit, and then we kind of, look at each other, and we were like, I know you, and then, oh yeah, and then we sat down and had a conversation, and he was the one that was saying, exited and sold, and I was like, oh, fuck, whatever that means, right? And then all of a sudden he goes, oh my God, we need someone like you to tell people, share your experiences, share your, what you've done. And I was like, well, why? And then as I started kind of figuring out the why, I realized that they were wasting money on consultants. They were wasting money on social media people, marketing people, whatever it may be. It was awful to see what consultants were charging people for shit work. And I was like, I knew every penny counts. You can't do that. And that's kind of the driving force behind Pure Guidance. When I started diving in, and I have a lot of consultants at the beginning were really angry when I was out there doing this for free. And it's not because I didn't need it to be financially or whatever. It's part of it, but I was just like, this is not, you're getting shit advice. And you're actually hurting companies. You're hurting their chance of survival. And even when Harvest came in and did that, they were hurting. And even, unfortunately, Thin Air Labs was doing it for a bit. They're better now, but you can't charge a startup this and just $5 grand. I was telling people not to pay their bills. Don't pay it. If they come after you, I'll light them up on LinkedIn. Right? It's killing me. It's watching these people not know, because there was and this is kind of a little bit before platform was, a very strong, our tech center in our community. So there was that, 4 or 5 year grace period there that there was a lot going on in that entrepreneurial world, which drove kind of the founding of Pure Guidance.
You mentioned Telling It How It Is, which is your podcast that you've been running for
almost 7 years in January.
Tell me about, everybody talks about these different things that you can do for your business, for yourself, these conversations that you can have, how to host them, how to do all these things, the importance of podcasts. I want to hear it from somebody who's been doing it for 7 years. Why do you do it? What does it do for you? And what is your goal with it?
Yeah, when I started, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, right? I was like, no one's talking about all the great things that are going on here in Alberta. And I didn't want to do a podcast because at that point I thought there was too many. I don't want to edit it. I'm not a techie. I have no idea. It would just probably make me angry. I would have figured it out, but it was just time, right? And when I was on Doyle Bueller had me on, and I was a Canadian entrepreneur, American, a European, and he's from an Australian. He's from Canada, but he's living in Australia at the time. And he had this live show, and we were on there, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is awesome. Like, this is exactly what I want. When that was over, he sent the link, and then we shared it, and it was great. I was like, holy God, this is awesome. So I reached out he told me the company, I reached out to them. They were a startup out of the Valley. I'm grandfathered in because I was one of their first clients. And a lot of the things you see on the podcast are things that I recommended, and it was great, right? But it was that live. I'm a big live. Same reason as I told you before, I don't go on. If there's editing, I'm not coming on. It's just the way I talk. I might swear a bit, my ums, my ahs, it is. It's me as a person, right? And so when I started doing that, it was like, okay, let's start shouting from the mountaintops about what we're doing here, because no one knows. No one knows what's going on here in Alberta. We got some great companies, great people, great entrepreneurs, and we're in our little bubble here. So that was the goal of it. And as it started gaining and growing, and we've reached 6.5 million views now. And I got to that point where, people were coming, hey, can I sponsor? Can I do that? And I did take a sponsor once for a 3-month contract, and I haven't done it since. It was working for them. It just wasn't working for me, and that's not why I started it, right? I'm not going to name the company because I don't want it, because it's a great company. Met them here. Founder was from here, played squash with them. But it wasn't having that conversation and then all of a sudden saying, hey, company so-and-so, give them a call, go check out their website, da-da-da. And now back to our conversation. That's kind of not what I wanted to do. And I didn't like their marketing department. It had to be their colors. And I didn't, I just wanted to be kind of like whatever. And, it's kind of got a word of its own now. Like everybody, they like it. I think last week there was 16,000 views. I think the highest one I've ever had was Mike from Mastrius at 110,000 views. Still haven't topped that yet. But it's just fun, right? It's just a chance. It's just like this. We're having a conversation. It's very ad lib. It's a chance for these people to kind of talk about themselves and brag a little bit, because, sometimes we have a hard time doing that. And especially in the beginning, because nobody was doing video and zero was doing live. And it was so far ahead of the curve that I would send like, say, here's the link and here's the MP4 file. And they're like, well, what do I do with this? I was like, oh, just chop it up into 30-second clips and you can put it on your LinkedIn. And well, how do I do that? Right? Like, I didn't even know how to make a clip, right? So it was a really good marketing piece for a lot of these people. And even to this day, I'm booked into January. I don't have to, so many people want to come on. And I'm sure it's going to run its course one time. I'm just going to say, okay, I'm out, or we're done, or whatever it may be. But I've enjoyed doing it. I've met so many incredible people, so many incredible entrepreneurs. So many industry people, and it's been awesome sharing, with the world what's happening here in Alberta.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think there's so much value, and maybe if you don't have a podcast or a show or whatever, you wouldn't know this. But we're asked constantly, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? How are you measuring success? Whatever, and those things are integrally important to a lot of things, but not this. This is. Selfishly, let's have a great conversation and let's share some stories.
Yeah. And I think I've had those people say, "Oh, how are you making money?" I said, "I'm not." I said, "But what it has done for Pure Guidance and the brand and my reputation and what we do between, it's priceless. There's not even a number that you can, someone will phone me up and say, hey, I'm having an event next week. Can you give it a shout out? 100%. Right at the beginning, I'll shout it out, right? Hey, go check this out, or I'll put it on the banner at the bottom, or whatever it may be. More than, you help so many people in our community.
Yeah, like anything else. Yeah, exactly. Building community. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. What does success look like to you?
I've been pretty lucky my whole life. I consider it lucky. I've worked hard. I've done a lot of things wrong. I've done a lot of things right. Success right now is the life I'm living, right? I love where I am right now in life. Our family's, healthy. Our girls, Gray's in grade 12. They're both really good athletes. they've got our work ethic. They work hard even at softball to become better. They want to make club teams. They want to, Rhea got third in the world with their softball team a couple of years ago. Like that's like my family is my life, and I love being around them, and that's success for me. It's not a dollar sign. It's not what car you drive. It's not anything. It's about being happy. It's about being able to come to this place and walk in and have everybody know who I am, and not because of what I do, but just me, right? There's people in here who probably have no idea. Like I know they're looking through the window and they're going to ask me, like, what's going on, right? So, but again, you just come here and you be yourself. Like this is family. You have my family, and that's success to me is putting a smile on my face and being able to do certain things that I love to do on a daily basis.
Beautiful. So you've got sports, you've got your family, you've got peer guidance. You're something we didn't get to talk about maybe next time is the fact that you're an investor in over 30 companies, which is incredible. But what's next for you?
I've got two answers for that, right? Like one day I'm just going to go away. Like no one's going to see me. LinkedIn's going to be gone. Everyone's going to be like, it's over, right? And
put the ring on.
Oh God, it's gone. Everything's gone. And I'm so unhandy. Like I can't fix anything, right? Like, so I always tell people that what I want to do is I want to become handy. So I'm going to get a job at Home Depot and be one of those guys that walk around in the orange smocks. But again, I'm not smart enough to give them any advice. So I'm going to have to do a little reverse psychology and say, if they come and ask about something about a deck or anything like that, I'm just going to have to say, hey, well, you know what? Before I give you my idea, what do you think you should do? And then just kind of, agree with their answer, I'm guessing, right? But I want to become handy. I want to learn. Like when this is, our youngest daughter is in grade 9. Grail graduates. So I imagine we'll be around here for probably another seven or so years. And then I think it's time to leave. Like Kath and I want to travel a little bit, like go live somewhere else, go live somewhere at a lake or maybe, buy a motorhome, sell our stuff here, buy a motorhome or somewhere, something that, I want to be close to our girls. Like it's got to be by an airport so we can be there instantly when they have kids. I want to be a very hands-on grandpa like my dad was and things like that. So, I don't have any really short-term goals other than continue to give back and hopefully be viewed as somebody that can be relied on and, giving open and honest answers to people that are looking for them.
Beautiful. Nothing more important than that.
No, that's what I enjoy, right?
Amazing.
Put a smile on my face.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can we send people to follow along the next steps in your journey or reach out or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I guess you can just Google. But yeah, I mean, go to LinkedIn. I'm very quick. I answer my emails, anywhere that we are. I know I have a photographer in New York that doesn't like me because her company is Jade Alberts Photography, and if you Google Jade Alberts, it's all me. She wanted to buy and I have all the domains.
Nice.
Even when like Snap or Twitter or what was TikTok, I grab it right away before anything, so no one can have it. And she's always like, you always beat me to it. I was like, well, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I'm always open. I'm always open for a conversation. I'm always open for a coffee. Usually every Tuesday I'll be at Founders Coffee for sure. It's in Kensington, except for this week. It's going to be at House 831 on 17th. We have our office hours, which is another great partnership with Osler that we give back and volunteer 3 hours of our time for any of their clients or any other clients that want to just come and sit in and do that. We're running our latest mental health course with Robert Broughton, Align Your Mind. Course 1 was sold out, 2 is sold out. And we got 3 and 4 coming up in December. And I'm always at certain events. Like I'm out there, but again, if you go to LinkedIn, DM me. I'm very responsive and I'll get back to you very quickly. And if you want to go for coffee, I'm more than glad to sit down with anyone.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to coming to my first Founders Coffee this week. So.
There we go.
There you go. Awesome. Well, Jade, thank you so much. It's been incredible chatting with you, and I look forward to the next one already.
Oh, I thank you for the opportunity. You guys do great work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.